Welcome to Happy Naked. And this is the founder of The Health and Fitness and the author of the book Happy Naked. And I'm also a personal trainer, energy worker, and I have a degree in computers. My mission with this interviews that I have been making, it is to share the naked truth through taboo conversations and raw stories that will allow you to elevate your sex life, relationships, intimacy, health, fitness, and overall well-being. So please follow me, and don't forget, follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Facebook, you can find me under Naked Fit, Happy Naked, The Health and Fitness. And if you go to Instagram, you can find me too under DMago, Happy Naked as well. And today I have a very, very special guest. It's somebody that I appreciate. We've known each other for quite some time already. And he is the author of this wonderful and very unique book called Virgin Beauty Beach, The Origin of the Man, Men, Women. And I gotta say that when I read this book, it really gave me, I don't know if I should say clarity, but allows me even to understand a lot of things about us as women. And it's interesting that Chris is the one that is coming out with a book, and it's telling us exactly, a lot of things of why, we are the bitch sometimes, right? But we also have to be, we have to present ourselves like this beauty or pretty beings in a certain way. And it's funny. And I read it a long time ago, but I think you even talk in the book about, I think we're the only species where the woman is the one that have to look pretty. In every other species, even the peacock, such a wonderful bird. And in our species, women is the only one that actually have, that pressure. These days, men have different kind of pressure as well. And but definitely when it comes to women and looking in a certain way, and for a long time, there is a lot of pressure. Yeah. And I want to share also a little bit about Chris. And in December 2008, he was in Orlando, Florida for an event, Date with Destiny, with Tony Robbins. I'm sure many of you have been there. So 10 days in a hotel conference room and nights with over 2,000 strangers. So he went there for a personal development, of course. That's how you're gonna go and see Tony, right? And came away with a life passion that was not about him. Wow. Over those 10 days, women in that audience stood up to speak from their heart. No celebrities, women from their different cultures, backgrounds, situations, and lifestyles. But not his ears that spoke with a single voice or a single theme. The theme resonated to him as a communal suffering. Interesting, right? As a man in that environment, a lot went through my head, but the one thought that stuck with him was that as a man, he is partnered in a community that instigates much of that suffering that was shared. He also came to the conclusion he could carry on the status quo, or he could be an advocate, right? Is you either join the movement and help and support elevate, or you just kind of keep throwing the pebbles at and so 3 years ago, he launched the podcast, Virgin Beauty and Beach. And you can look at it at vbpodcast.com. It is a platform where he shared with a female co-host and one we use to engage and empower listeners, especially women and girls, around the topics of gender, sex, relationships, and self-identity. So you can see all the things that we have in common. The podcast brings him into contact with amazing people, and through those connections, he gained insight and motivation to write the book, which is the Virgin Beauty Beach, Origin of the Man-Made Women. So welcome, Chris, and thank you very much to say, because, this is a matter of saying hell yes. I'm just
hell yeah.
Right? And you say hell yes, and here we are. You know, I have been in your podcast, and now it is my turn to have you on the
Thank
other
you.
side
Thank
and
you.
getting to know more about it, right?
Thank you.
Know more about you and more about the book and the gift that you have to bring to this planet. Because
Mhm.
everybody, we all have a gift, right?
Yes.
And you're sharing yours with us today. So, so tell us, okay, so we now know how you got inspired.
Hmm.
So how has that journey been for you?
It's been an amazing journey. My co-host, Heather Erlin, we met 4 years ago just on an introduction by a mutual friend. And our first contact with each other was over coffee and lasted about 2.5 hours. We just resonated with each other and our
Mm.
with things that we believe in. I was starting to put together a podcast, and I thought, this is perfect to have a partner with what I do. I didn't have a name. I had nothing. I just had an idea. I had this idea of working with women in getting perspective on themselves and on the world around them and how the world treats them. That's that was my initiative. It was basically to work on the feminine was my true initiative.
Hmm.
And then this came about as far as the podcast is concerned, and the name just came out of the blue. It was given to me, I believe, by some beautiful angel, and I just happened to resonate perfectly with what we wanted to do. And that subtitle, I spent about almost a year and a half writing the book. The subtitle came within the last month or so,
Hmm.
after struggling with what should I have as a subtitle for this book. And now that's become its own vehicle as well. Something that I want to work on, the man-made woman, what that is, who that is, how it affects women, and what they can do about it. So that's my next step.
Yeah, yeah. And when I was going through your book, I could tell how much research you did. Like,
Yeah.
because this is a compacted version, and I cannot imagine all the work that you have to put in order to make it this compact and being able to share the message properly. So I'm sure, like all that time that it took you, I'm sure it was all about researching and figuring out how to put all this information in a way that, of course, everybody can understand it. Is is the intention of the book for women or for men or both? Like, what's your original thought on that?
It's for women and for smart men. If you're a smart
Okay.
man, you definitely want to know what it is that women have to go through. And a
Hmm.
lot of women don't even understand what it is they're going through. They just go through it. If you're a smart man, if you can understand that, you can definitely communicate better and be a better partner.
Yeah, no, definitely, 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 definitely. So tell us about, there's so many things, and I'm sure the fact that I have seen a lot about we are the only species where women have to look pretty, right? And what is your perspective on what do you think is a pressure? You talk about suffering, and when you were in this event with Tony Robbins, and what was the kind of suffering that you got to see in
You
women?
know what? It's just women's lives. Um, as men, I don't know that we truly understand what women have to go through from birth through their entire life. They have so much they have to overcome just to be in our society as a patriarch and survive. We have a far easier road in a patriarch than women do, and we don't really understand that. There's really no one really prepares men to understand what women go through. So they're on their own in a lot of cases, unfortunately.
But I will say, and this is something that I have noticed. Okay, so I understand that like women suffer a lot. I come from a complete different culture in
Mm-hmm.
Venezuela. Venezuelans, I'm finding that we also have a very very special way of thinking compared to the rest of Latin America in some ways, and I guess it has something to do with the location, right, and the access that we have to
Mm-hmm.
different cultures and immigration as well. And but what I find is that since women liberation, we actually did a harm, like we harm ourselves even more with women liberation. Because what I'm finding is now we're not only moms, we're the cook, like now we're independent, we're financially independent, so we have a full-time job, we have all those things, thanks to, because there was a repression, and I don't want to deny that part, right? So however, it is like a, what the heck? Right? Like is that was supposed to be a favor? I don't think so. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yes, it is a liberation of sorts if you want entrance into a man's world. It is a liberation that you have that entrance into that man's world, but there are consequences for that liberation. There's consequences to going through that door. And a lot of it is you have to, I talk a lot in what I'm doing right now about the word equal and equality.
Mm-hmm.
And it may seem like equal and equality, but it is not, because you can never have the privileges that men have in a patriarch. That's something you cannot gain. So it's not typically, or as you would think of, equal. You're doing more, gaining less than a man would in the same circumstances. I don't know, but you're doing it out of survival is the saddest part. It's how women have to go about survival, how they go about caring for their children and their family. It's not that they have an option right now anymore, because we've basically broken down the old system of what family used to be, because that wasn't working for women either. So now they have to take on male roles, become masculinized in order to survive. And that is not serving them either, because they have to leave their natural power behind, which is their feminine.
But here's the thing, and I'm going to, this is going to be controversial in so many ways, because I think we also, we as women, as a collective, we also have done that to ourselves, right? And what I mean with that is that we didn't step back and say, hold on, I'm still gonna wear my skirt, my lip gloss, and all that stuff, and I'm going to, do this work. It was always a battle. I have to, and you said it, it's all about getting into the men's world, but it doesn't have to be like that. I don't think so anymore. And I fall in that trap, by the way. I fall in that trap, and I have to correct directions. And because it wasn't serving me in relationships. And I have many, many friends that talk about being so empowered, but what they're not realizing is that we are emasculating now men as well. That's another side effect of all this stuff, right? So what do you think? Like, how can we're living in a pretty messed up world right now.
Well, when I talk about the man-made woman, there's an alternate to that, which is the self-made woman. And that is what I want to focus on and bring to the forefront, is what does that look like? Who is that? Who is she? And what does she possess? I think that a lot of women have lost their way in pursuing equality, that they are so hell-bent on being successful in a man's world. They're drawn easily into being like men in order to do that. But there's a part of them that is far more powerful than they realize, than they give credit to. Because in a man's world, that's not what they need or felt they needed in order to gain entrance. I have nothing but empathy for that.
Yeah. And I want everybody to seriously get your book, and I will post in the description where people can get your book. Is it on Amazon?
Amazon, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so where they can get it on Amazon, but also because you're saying a man-made women, just tell us, explain that to us, right? And I also want people to get your book, by the way, but explain that to us.
Man-made woman is pretty easy. If you're born into a patriarchy, you're going to be a man-made woman, because everything that you desire to have in your life as a successful human being comes out of a patriarchy. You have to compete for it with a man to get what it is that you desire in this world. That immediately makes you a man-made woman, because you cannot be a woman. You cannot be yourself. You have to compete with men to get what you desire and need in your life. So, I mean, there's many, many situations. I was talking to a woman a little while ago. She's a New York Times best-selling author. She's a professor. She's she owns a vineyard. She's very, very successful as a woman. During COVID, she has a husband and 2 boys. She found herself being the domesticated woman in that situation, being completely subservient to her husband and her boys. Not that she set it up that way. It's just the way that it falls out in our society, that she has to take on that role. Even though she's as successful, if not more successful than her husband, that's the role that falls into her lap. And that's what her boys expect from her.
It is crazy, because on the other side, when we talk about equality, I also think there is misunderstanding in that, right? Because we're not designed equally. When we're looking at God or whoever we believe how we were created, right? We were not created equally, right? Even physically speaking, we are not equal. And I think what is happening also, it is a misunderstanding of that. We're not designed as an individual, like not designed equal, but we're asking for equal rights. And sometimes people are mix both, and it's not the same, right?
It's a misunderstanding of a word that can be easily manipulated depending on your perspective. We are born equal. If you're looking at, we have equal opportunity to grow into our best selves, whoever and whatever that is. We're born equal to do that. However, if you look at the word in the context of our society, no, we're not equal. One is born with a privilege that the other is not born with, simply because of the way that our society has been constructed as a patriarch. That is what makes us unequal. It's not that we're not born equal, we're born into a situation that's not equal.
But when I look at history, and that's relatively recent, because women have been very, very important in the past in our history, and it was considered a key to our society because of procreation, like giving birth and all that kind of stuff. That's one of the things, right? And so and I think you mentioned that in the book, I cannot remember right now, but when do you think that all got twisted? Who was the man that we need to go to? There are 2 men, take them out and say, what's wrong with you guys?
Well, I have a very active imagination, and history is great, but no one knows how this all happened. So why not come up with my own imagination? I see 2 people. Well, they're in a community. We're back in the caveman days where we're tribal, okay? And everyone is living together. Everyone has their responsibilities. The women are gatherers, the men are hunters, however that works out in that society. And 2 of these people fall in love with each other. And they're sitting in a cave one day just to get some alone time together. And they look around and they say, why don't we move into this cave together? Just you and I, not with the tribe, just you and me. Why don't we do that? And it sounds like a great idea. So they do that. They move in together and things are going fantastic. She gets pregnant and she cannot go out and do what she normally would do to help support the 2 of them. So he says, I'll do more. You stay here. I'll take care of you. I'll be here. Everything you need, I'll take care of. Okay, so they start that kind of bond together, right? So for a time being, she is giving birth to his child, his offspring, and he's taking care of her. What a wonderful idea! Now everyone sees this idea, and everyone wants to take part in this idea. The thing is that when she was in the tribe, if she got pregnant and she couldn't take care of herself as normal, the women of the tribe would assist her, right? Now she's bound to this one man in this one situation, and he becomes the breadwinner, and she becomes the subservient. So now we have a division of importance, which is our family foundation, and that just keeps on building and building and building, and that model then splits off into the society, and then splits off into civilization, and here we are with this patriarchy that women have one position and men have a higher position. But it all comes back to this family connection of a man and a woman together. And unfortunately, one's role was given more priority over the other. And it's not necessarily the man that did that. He wanted to take care of his spouse, of his wife, and he was doing that. But society places more value on what he brings into the table than what she does eventually. Because women used to be goddesses. They used to be worshipped for bearing young. There used to be statues carved for them out of honor for what they did. But that faded away, and men became more and more egoistic.
Yeah. No, there is, have you ever read the book of Ancient Secret of a Flower of Life?
No, I have not.
No?
No.
So that's an interesting book. It deconstructs a lot of belief that we can have, right? And it's basically, it talk a little bit about that, a little bit, right? In a very interesting and outside, like, in my opinion, when you grab that kind of book, you basically have to be an open mind.
Yep.
Right? Where you just are going to allow that information that you're reading to basically say, you know what, that might be true. And at the end of the day, we have to make the decision whether we want to believe on something or not, right? But it's a very, very interesting book, and it goes deep in a lot of different areas of us as human beings.
I'll add one to your bookshelf as well. It's Sapiens.
Sapiens. Oh, okay.
Sapiens, yeah, like as in Homo sapiens.
Yeah.
Sapiens, incredible book. Incredible.
Oh, wow. And so, but definitely, here's what I think. Okay, now after, we are where we are today, right? Like we just need to now figure out how we're going moving forward. And what I find is, and I will refer about my culture in some ways, and also being in Canada, what I have noticed. Okay, so in Venezuela, very, very feminist culture in so many ways. We're very empowered, we're very independent, educated. You don't, let any man to step on your toes, nothing. Like, you are a warrior, right? We're not a goddess anymore. Oh, well, a warrior and a goddess, by the way. Because Venezuelans are the most beautiful women in the world, right? So, but anyway, so the thing is, that's so very, very empowered, educated. We're also very respected, high like positions in corporations, like management positions and all that kind of stuff. Okay, and so that seems to be quite perfect. And but we're also, because we're so empowered, so independent, and the government do not enforce any sort of child support. Now women end up in that role that they're everything. This one aspect of that compared to Canada is that we still have the family, the community, that tribe that you were talking about. We still have that, right? It's changing, unfortunately, because that is what it makes us like to be who we are today as a society. That's a very, very important key. And even when we look at the blue zone, have you ever heard of the blue zone?
Mm.
The blue zone is where there is the people that live the longest, the centenarians.
Okay.
And the one aspect that all these 5 cities in the world have is the community.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is the social aspect, is the
Yes.
family, the
Yeah.
gathering, right? They all get in Italy, they all get together to make pasta, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just, and that is key, right? So that's what I see in Venezuela, right? Then I moved to Canada. And of course, and even I personally grew up with my dad. I know who my dad is and all that kind of stuff. And he calls me once a year, right? So, but it wasn't a presence that I could say that I have that male figure in my life, other than my uncles.
Mm-hmm.
Then I moved to Canada, and then I see a complete different culture because the economy also, and we're still in that tribe and family because of the economy. The economy doesn't allow us to move out
Mm-hmm.
at 18 as it happens in Canada. Then we're in Canada, and I moved to Calgary, where I see that women are not respected in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
They're not in management positions, right? And that goes more aligned with what you have been saying, right? They really have to fight and get in the, especially Calgary being a very oil and gas kind of town, right? That might not be the same across the country or many other countries, right? But then very, very male oriented, strong. And even when I had this job in a truck company, and there was the only female manager I ever had in IT, right? Because IT is also very male oriented industry, period, right? And then, oh my God, she was a bitch. And you talk about this, you talk about that in the book, right? So she was a bitch. And I'm like, fuck, like, why? Right? And like, explain us why. I know you explained that nicely in the book, right? But it's funny.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to be in management and it's all men, what do you have to be to fit in? What do you have to be to get into that echelon? And what do you have to be to prove yourself day after day after day after day on that level? Right? You have to be like the men. And you have to be over and above like the men. You have to be harder, tougher, nastier than the men if you're to prove yourself that you belong there, that they allow you to actually be there.
Yeah. Yeah. But honestly, it is miserable.
It
It
is.
is a very miserable life.
Yes.
We're not stepping in our own power, even though we think we are.
Well, women are chasing men's power. They're not chasing their own power. Their own power is completely the antithesis of male power. But in order for them to believe that they are going to be successful in their life, they have to chase male power because that is what lights up the world right now.
There is something, nature always looks for balance. We like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm finding is when I was single for quite some time. And what I was finding with my also single girlfriends is that men are now more soft, right? Because women are so empowered that now men, and that's, I think it's nature. I don't really think it's men are truly aware of this in that sense that what we're talking about right now. But they're more soft, they're more nurturing, right? Like they're more delicate. And of course we give them names, like it could be metrosexual or whatever, right? And because it's true, right? But women, the irony is women still want a man that owns, like their power.
Yeah.
But nature is looking for balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. These men, okay, so this empowerment, women's liberation, as we spoke about, saw a lot of women determine they don't need men. So they can raise a family without a man. So now you have a lot of boys born in a family with just a mother. So who do they look to for manhood? Who do they look to as a model of what a good man is supposed to be, and how he's supposed to present himself, hold himself? Who is that model for him? Well, he has his mom, right? And if he's obedient to mom, if he's gentle and kind to mom, that's how he wins favor with mom. So how is he going to be with a girlfriend? It's going to be the same as he was with mom. That's all he knows. That's how he knows to win favor with a woman, with a female. So you end up with a lot of men exactly as you speak.
Yeah, and I find even with my son, because it is, of course, he has two sisters. There's me, and my ex-husband is a designer, which is pretty much a female energy. Okay, so let's put this that way. And I honestly find that sometimes it's I don't think he truly understands this, but I think it's a lot of it's an inner battle, being surrounded with all this female energy. And him being like true in his masculine. I can tell that he's truly in his masculine. And I can see it in him, right? So it must be inner battle as well for a lot of men without knowing.
Yeah. Well, your masculine is calling you, but if you've only had practice on your feminine, it's difficult to bring that forward in relationship. It really is. I mean, for me, the absolute ultimate is for every human being to have that absolute balance of both. They can go to either one, depending on the situation. You can go to, as a woman, you can go to your masculine when you need that force, or you can go to your feminine when you need that force. And same for a man. But we don't allow, unfortunately, in our society right now, as the way it's laid out, we don't allow men to go to that side of themselves in a social setting. They may do it in relationship, but they have to take into their masculine if they're not going to be ridiculed in a social setting. Yeah, right? So they're torn. It's a difficult time for men to decide what it is they need to be in order to be successful in relationship.
Yeah, I think what is happening to men, it's also what happened to us women when the whole women liberation started, right? Where women have to figure it out. Where were we? What are we going to do now in our society? Now we have all these rights. What are we gonna do, right? Like now, so I think it's different because they still have the same rights and all that stuff, but it's in other areas. But I think it's all that rediscovery of what's gonna be the role in our society now, and how what it's gonna be their contribution now to families or relationships or everything in general, right?
Yeah. For me, it's a fantastic time. It's a brittle and fragile time that you can reshape things the way that they are most effective for humanity, not just for men, not just for women, but for humanity as a whole. And I think this fragile time for men especially, I think is very, very positive.
So you were talking about you're working on your second book.
Well,
what is that? What is that all about?
Well, I mean, when I started off, and as you mentioned, with Tony Robbins going to that event, I came away from that. It was a year later after that event that I had this idea out of the blue that I should write a book about the feminine. What the heck do I know about the feminine? Why am I chosen to write a book about the feminine, for crying out loud? However, it was very exciting to me. So that is a book. The Virgin Beauty Bitch is a pit stop on the way to that book. The Origin of the Man-Made Woman, or the Man-Made Woman, is a pit stop on the way to that book. I want to write a book. My book is about world peace, really. It's about world peace, an individual at a time. And the world peace comes from each individual being able to come to peace within themselves, with the two halves of themselves, to understand both their masculine and their feminine, and to respect both their masculine and their feminine, that they are equal, absolutely equal. If you can do that as an individual, then you may see that in the person outside of you, and you may respect them the same way.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is what I see as the culmination of world peace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what I'm working on.
It has to be, it has to start with us as individuals,
Yeah.
right? Like we need to bring that level of consciousness individually before it becomes collective, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's my project.
So what's your vision? What's your vision? So let's say, where do you want to see yourself? Like how are we going to see you bringing your gift to the world? What do you have in your mind?
I have this thing on my wall. I'll read a bit of it to you. I feel so much pure joy traveling the world to encourage the emboldenment of women to trust their own feminine source of raw power and boundless strength. That is my goal, is to have women see in themselves how much power they have, unbelievable power that they have.
Mm-hmm.
If they can identify that within themselves, wherever women lead, men will follow. Absolutely, they will follow. But women have to have that kind of confidence in themselves and to understand and know themselves outside of society, outside of relationship, outside of parents. They have to know themselves in depth and be comfortable with themselves and be comfortable with their own power.
Yeah.
That to me is what I call it evolution. That is how we evolve as a species.
Yeah. No, that is powerful, because what you're saying is, it's something that I heard a lot. For some reason, right? We go back to stereotyping, and everybody, for what I hear in North America, everybody thinks that Latin girls are all like confident, empowered, which I think we are, honestly. Not bragging much, but I think, and then we have on the opposite end, right? All these ladies in North America that just, it's what you're saying, they're not stepping in their power, they think they're not worth it. And so now we're getting into this world where women are empowering women as well, and then getting into this other side of the spectrum that I personally don't agree. Okay, because I think it's that pendulum effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then we are underestimating our other side, which is the masculine, or the masculine figure. Okay, and we're also underestimating our own feminine and masculine within ourselves, right? And it's completely, it is completely crazy, because even when I saw you at Canadian Business Chicks, which is only for women and you were the only man, right? It was very interesting. I don't mind. I love seeing men in women's groups, but the women are so close. It is just crazy. It is crazy because they're so close. It's like, I don't want men in the group, right? And I don't know. It's just.
But that's a masculine attitude and a masculine mindset. And if women have moved into their masculine, what else would you expect them to believe and think?
That is so true. That is so true. And I remember when I have to, because it was my personal struggle as well, right? Like living, like growing up with my great grandma, my grandma, my mom, my sister, and I, 5 women. My uncles were not around at that point very much because they were, you know, adults living their life, having their jobs. And one of them was already married. The other one was married and then divorced, and then he came back home. But you know, but the presence was not as, at least not for me, right? Because I was still a kid. And I find that I have to really, really go against that feminist. And I push men away many, many times. And I really have to come back. So I did a few things. I started wearing more skirts. I started wearing more high heels. That it seems shallow, but that's what it's allowing us to connect to that feminine energy, at least from the outside, right? It's a step into that. And then allowing men to be men. And
that's a big one. That's a big one.
that was hard. That was hard, because what it means is now I am the one that need to step back. I was chatting with a friend of mine, and she said, I know how to do everything. I opened the door to my mom. Like, she took completely that masculine role. And but how can we step back if you know how to change a tire, but you're with a man? You know, I know how to do it, but I'll just play my goddess role. And I said, oh, can you please change the tire for me? Because I don't want to break my nose. Because at the end of the day, it's a game. Don't you think?
Well, for a man, his first inclination is to please his woman. That's all he wants to do. In the simplest, smallest, and the biggest ways, he wants to please her. If it is just opening a door, if it's changing a tire, if it's running to the grocery store at midnight, he wants to please her. It's what he wants to do. If you take that away from him, what is his value? Is he just something in bed? What is his value to you in your life? And is that important for you to give to him? That's a gift you give to him.
Yep.
For him to serve you.
Yep. I was having a conversation with this girl about 2 months ago. Same thing, she's been married and all that kind of stuff, kids, and then she's whining about her husband. And I said, but what's wrong? He doesn't do what I'm telling him to do. I said, but what are you telling him? Like, you're nagging. Nobody's gonna, like, if he would do the same thing to you, would you do it? No. Why? Because it's annoying. Because you feel like punching his face. Right? Like, it's just as simple as that. So why do you think by you doing that, he's going to do it? You're not giving him, you're taking his power away from him. And it's exactly that. And she said, I never saw it that way. It said, well, but that's what we're doing, because we're so empowered. We're so in our head, because at the end of the day, it's in our head and our ego saying that, yeah, we can do everything, that you're not allowing him, you know, to be what he represents in the family dynamics. And it's just, I see this over and over and over again. And I wonder why the rate of divorce is 60%. Right? And it's all because, oh, men are useless. I wonder, really? I would think twice before I said that again, right?
Yeah. There are a lot of good men out there, and are they given an opportunity to be good men?
I don't think so. And I'm sure anybody that is watching this might disagree to this whole conversation, which is fine, right? Because this is not about, having people that agree or disagree. It is about putting the message out there.
Absolutely.
And start opening. So, because whoever is listening, they don't have to agree to everything, but just like what I was saying about that book earlier, open your mind, listen, and maybe you are doing one thing out of everything that we have been talking about today, right? And maybe that's where you like, you just gotta go. Sometimes it's like when you read a book, you have to read a book a couple of times before you kind of things start clicking. Maybe this might be that episode that, women particularly, and men also have to listen to this a couple of times, and then one time they will hear one thing, and then the second time they will hear another part, because it is very controversial what we're talking about, because I don't really think men and women are basically stepping in their power pure from our nature, from how we complement each other. Okay, and this is applied also to gay couples. Like I don't, because we still always play that female and male role, no matter what.
Yep.
And no matter, and as individuals, we're still pushing down the other one, period. Mm-hmm. Even if you're in a different kind of relationship that is not heterosexual, right? Mm-hmm. And we're still doing that because it's kind of getting in our head, right? Yeah. And that's kind of, so I want to say that because it's not about being right or wrong or anything like that. It's just, it is something that we are experiencing, period. Right?
I would say that if you heard something on this conversation that triggered you, pissed you off, I think that's a perfect sign from the heavens for you to examine why that is. Is it because it's wrong, or is it because it goes against something that you've learned?
Yep. So thank you very much. And so how people can find you?
Well, obviously, just go to our website, VirginBeautyB.tch, VBB podcast, if you want to listen to the podcast on iTunes. And obviously, as you mentioned before, the book is on Amazon, Virgin Beauty Bitch, Origin of the Man-Made Woman. And obviously, you can reach us on any of the social media platforms. Love to hear from people. Love to hear from people. Love to get feedback. Love to get encouragement, or whatever you got. Just bring it. We're up for it.
Let's have the conversation. Let's discuss about this, right?
We like stirring the pot, so yeah.
Yes, totally. Yeah. Yeah, totally. So thank you very much. And I want to remind everyone also to to follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and definitely get Chris's book. You're really going to enjoy. Again, it's a very interesting, he put a lot of efforts on all the research that he put to put this book together. I can tell, right, when I went through it. So it's a contribution to our planet, to our society. And when a friend of mine told me when my book got launched, he said, what you're doing by writing a book and publishing a book, it is a legacy. And that's exactly what your book is also. It's a legacy, something that even after we leave this world, there's always something that is going to be on your behalf. You sharing your gift, it's your legacy, where people can go and look back and say, oh, this guy, Christopher Kennedy, look at all the polemic stuff that he was saying, right? And maybe it could be a good point to say how things have evolved, right? It could be a point of reference. So that is a legacy, and it is a gift that you're leaving to the planet already, like what you already have published. And I'm sure what it's coming up, it's also going to be another gift to the world and your legacy.
A labor of love. Thank you very much for having me. Much appreciate being with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.